What I miss? What I miss? Welcome in, everyone, here to the Voice of College Football and our big bowl kickoff. Absolutely. Hit me last night. Hey, bowl season starting. And if I can't be just on the couch by myself with some snacks, kicking back, just enjoying Middle Tennessee State and Toledo, because I actually have to work. If we need to combine work and play and being a football junkie, a football nerd, this is the best way to do it. So this is the way we are doing it. Appreciate everybody being here. And hopefully you've kept yourself amused and you're talking amongst yourselves, of course, and taking in the Bahamas Bowl or the Bahamas Bowl. And so if you had your choice of either enjoying the Christmas season where you are in the manner in which you do, with the weather and everything else that goes along with it, the festivities and everything that you enjoy about your Christmas season, where you are, versus enjoying the Bahamas Bowl and Christmas season at the Bahamas, in the Bahamas, what's your choice there? But again, appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football as we will enjoy Toledo and Middle Tennessee together. At 2 p.m. Eastern time, we will have Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama on the line to break down Alabama's recruiting class, which is a bitter disappointment. Number 2 in the country. Hope that you've enjoyed our recruiting reports, our National Signing Day reports from all over the place. Ohio State, Michigan, Nebraska, Iowa, Texas A&M, Penn State's coming. Michigan State's just released Michigan State. Just released this morning Arkansas as well. So enjoy those. Oklahoma, Texas, Oregon released last night. So if you can keep up with us, we are releasing National Signing Day reports, and they are coming fast and furious. We've got Alabama and Minnesota coming today, as well as Kentucky and Tennessee to be released today. All right. So again, I got to admit, if I had my druthers today, I'm sitting on the couch and I'm enjoying this game. I'm just kicking back watching this game, and I'm getting some junk food, some chocolate. I got to eat first, though, and you know what? It's what? 12:30 Eastern time. I've not eaten anything today. Nothing. Zero. Got up. It's on the phone ever since. Been on the phone ever since and recorded the Minnesota Golden Gophers National Signing Day report. Oh, look at these scenes from the Bahamas. What is this dude doing? Oh, they're just having a good time dancing. Okay. I thought that was some kind of... Okay. Get your different styles of dancing there. It's all good. I can easily replicate all those moves. There's no doubt about that. We have a bit of an issue with our trackpad that has to be tied down over here today. So this is going to be a bit awkward until it gets recharged. But I want to see all your comments coming in. Are you guys excited about bowl season? I love this. Again, I would rather be watching. What do we got here? Middle Tennessee running a sweep, and they get that dude's fired up. Number 25 for the Rockets. Just threw down that boy for a 2-yard loss. He gets a tackle for loss, a little TFL on the stat sheet. Gotta love that. Middle Tennessee at 6-6, Toledo 7-5. Rockets, a 10.5-point favorite. Hopefully you joined us on Patreon and do on a regular basis where we've got our bowl predictions there. So I have only selected the first 2 games, today's 2 games. I will make my selections for Saturday later. Oh, man, you got to catch that ball. Number 89. For the first week of bowl play, I'm not going to know hardly anyone. It's going to go from not knowing anybody until after Christmas. Then I know just about everybody after then. Once we start to put some Power 5 teams on the TV screen, then I'm going to know some players. All right. Missed this man. All right. I did not advertise this as a watch party, did I? I did not promote as a watch party. Swampy McGee's here. Swampy McGee Bowl Kickoff 2021 for some college football fun. The voice of college football pre-game party has begun. Swampy McGee got it started. We're punting. No score. We've only wasted 6 minutes of ball game. I've only missed 6 minutes. Not too bad. Little special teams at the Bahamas Bowl. This bowl game is only 7 years old, and it has produced some of the craziest games. Power Car One, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that so much. And I apologize for any of you who got the initial notification for noon. Then I had to switch it out. Believe me, I'm working hard for you, trying to build this channel. So everything, if I'm late, I'm building the channel. I'm doing things that are paramount to building the channel. This could be a decent game here coming up at 6. They took the graphic down, so I don't even remember what bowl game it is or sponsored by whom. The Cure Bowl, I believe, with Coastal Carolina and Northern Illinois. Trackpad could be an issue for me. All Toledo out. I took Toledo and laid the 10.5 in this game. I said, you know what? Lay the 10.5. Rockets win big. And here we get the first big play of the game. Nice move in the backfield, 22. Who are our group of 5 experts out there? Hopefully you caught our big preview on this one. Swampy letting us know 43 bowl games, 25 days from the Bahamas Bowl to the January 10th National Championship game. Did we not have a situation for a few years during the playoff era in which we had at least one bowl game after the national championship game? When the national championship game was played on a Friday night, those first several years, there were scheduled bowl games. Nice catch, 15. The Georgia transfer, who would that be? Did I just hear that correctly? Kovac. Swampy. Action Network, with the bowl game added, it guarantees a bowl for all 84 teams that won at least 6 games without the additional game. Yes. Which I'm good with. I don't think that those teams should be necessarily, anybody should go out of their way to reward them. But if somebody wants to, somebody obviously does, meaning ESPN, I believe, was the initiator of that, or probably some kind of joint venture between ESPN and a sponsor, of course. And they put that together. More games, more money. Swampy says 2 of the following 6-win teams would not have played in a bowl game: Ball State, Hawaii, Miami of Ohio, North Texas, ODU, or Wyoming. Look at Swampy McGee coming in with the bio information here. These are game notes for us. The Bahamas Bowl is played annually in Nassau at the 15,000-seat Thomas Robinson Stadium, which they struggle to fill a section of the 15,000 seats. Not big football fans there in the Bahamas. They get one chance. They're on an island that's how big? And the population is how large on that island? And they see American football how many times? Once a year? And nobody can get there. Oh my goodness, that kick was awful. Come on, Toledo. Let's put some points on the board. Get me off to a good start. And the Bahamas Bowl has tie-ins with the MAC and the Conference USA. Here we go. Swampy. This is phenomenal, Swampy. Inaugural Bahamas Bowl in 2014 with the first major FBS or historical equivalent Division I bowl game to be played outside the U.S. and Canada, because we have had some bowl games in Toronto, correct? That would be the one exception, Toronto, I believe. Between two U.S. teams since 1937, the Bacardi Bowl in Havana, Cuba. Can you imagine that? College football teams going to Cuba in 1937 for a January 1st game. That's cool. That is crazy. Swampy, first Bahamas Bowl. Western Kentucky 49, Central Michigan 48. If you don't know the circumstances surrounding that inaugural Bahamas Bowl, check it out. Look it up on YouTube. Don't do it right now because we need a crowd in here, but do that sometime. Oh, go ahead and do it right now. The score of that game, I remember it well because I went shopping with my kids or maybe by myself, but I went out shopping, and Western Kentucky led 49-14. In, I believe, the fourth quarter, if not the late third quarter. Western Kentucky led 49-14. Central Michigan scored, what would that have been? 4 consecutive touchdowns, 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and went for a 2-point conversion. When they scored that 49-48, they went for the 2-point conversion and lost. Epic. Became one of those games that hardly anybody watched, but then it became this big social media phenomena that day that everybody was checking out the last few plays of the game. We've got bowl game MVPs from 2014 at the Bahamas Bowl, courtesy Swampy McGee, which many of you will remember Brandon Doty, the Western Kentucky quarterback, and a defensive MVP was, I do not recall this gentleman, Derek Overstreet. Here we go, 2015. Catch up on Bahama Bowl's history, courtesy Swampy McGee. Phenomenal. Western Michigan back at it there. There we've got FIU and Toledo, another entertaining ball game. As Toledo 10.5-point favorite, 49.5. You would think that that would be low for these two teams, but we've almost played 10 minutes of game time. Nothing on the board. Nobody close to the end zone. You guys were in here at 11 a.m. to 11:30 for a scheduled 12:30 Eastern live stream. Good for you. The winner of this game will receive the Prime Minister's Trophy, which is approximately 20 inches, weighs almost 30 pounds. Well, I would say something there, Swampy McGee. Wherever you pulled that ESPN announcer information, that is clearly not Kevin Nagandi with the play-by-play today. That is Matthew Berry, I believe is the gentleman's name. So maybe they had a late switch there. LSU played the University of Havana in 1937. Or is that 19? 07? I thought the game was in 37. David, Mark, updates. Made on polos and products. I added 2 new products. Just wait, you guys. Just wait. You're in for a treat here in the next few days. I'm not going to say anything else. Undersell, over deliver. There's my population status right there. I was calling for that. Swampy beat me to it. 274,000, just over 70% of the entire population of the Bahamas. Nassau is the center of commerce, education, etc. But nobody can show up for a football game. They obviously do not care, or I do not want to necessarily make a judgment on the earning ability of these people. Current temperature, I got to think that they've publicized this at some point. They tend to want to do this and throw this in our faces here in the great old USA, in the northern portion of the country. Let us know, what is the temperature at the bowl game versus what is the temperature at the 2 schools currently. I'm going to guess, since it's 80 degrees at the game, I'm going to say, I have no idea. It was like close to 60 here yesterday. So I don't know. In Toledo, it might be fairly warm today. I'm going to guess that it's 48. And in wherever Middle Tennessee is located, Jackson, Tennessee? No, that's on the outer portion of the state. Middle Tennessee is located, I don't remember. I once knew that. Middle Tennessee, it's probably 62 degrees there. Always a massive crowd for the Bahamas Bowl, Jet Mech. Oh, we got a first down in midfield, Middle Tennessee. Tony is letting us know that there is breaking news out there that UCLA recruits were sent offers by a fake coach online. Some fell for it and made commitments on Twitter. The fake coach troll out there recruiting more than Chip. That's a pretty pathetic thing to do. Correct that. That's an extremely pathetic thing to do. People just aren't mean-spirited. They obviously don't have any, like, I wouldn't have time to do something like that. People, we don't have enough of this country working right now. That's part of the problem. Idle hands is the devil's workshop. That is part of the problem in this country. I've not preached about that recently. I've not thought about that. But basically, I think we can tie this unemployment with the amount of idiocy going on out there. Those things can be tied together. Give people time to sit around and do nothing, and they're going to find dumb things and harmful things to do. They're going to either waste away themselves or they're going to be harmful to somebody else. 2nd and 10. Nice ball play there. Got number 89, who does not look like a tight end. Okay, that's usually a tight end number. The old out and up. Okay. Tony, thanks for letting us know. I am tired of covering non-football items. Okay, Lewis. Understand something, Lewis. It's all about television. It's all about television and sponsorships and advertising. Forget about attendance at football games. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. Sure, they would love to have 15,000 people there at, what are they going to sell the tickets at, 10 or 15 bucks? That's not how they make money. People get too caught up in how many people are in the stadium in relation to how much money is being made. Sure, if you go to Happy Valley, if you go to the Shoe, if you go to Alabama or somewhere of that top level degree, and there's 100,000 people in the stadium, and you can determine that they paid an average of $100 a seat. Yeah, that's a lot of money. That's what, 10 million bucks. That is $10 million right there. And then in addition to that, all the merchandise and the merchandise and the concessions. Yeah, there's a ton of money that can be made, but it still is a drop in the bucket. So the money is being made via sponsorships, TV. And this is another thing that people don't connect, or they make a wrong connection, is they look at the crowds at the bowl games and think, nobody cares about this. This isn't popular. Why do we have so many bowl games? Because people watch them. People watch the worst bowl games involving the most obscure teams. What we're watching right now, 5 times more, at least 5 times more, a better rating than your top college basketball games, your top regular season college basketball games. More people watching this. Pick out your best college basketball game of the week. Many more people are watching this. It's not even close. So forget about the number of people in the stands. And also understand that any time that you take 2 schools or 2 teams and you send them a great distance away from where the school's located, it's going to be difficult to draw a large crowd. That's one of the reasons why conference championship games for lower, less popular conferences are played at the home stadium of one of the 2 teams. The American Conference, the Sun Belt, the Pac-12 up until this year, even the Pac-12, even a Power 5 conference like the Pac-12, this may turn into a situation in which I'm regretting my selection, my prediction, just out of plain. I looked at Toledo's scores. I looked at Middle Tennessee's scores, and I thought Toledo is performing better against better competition. No wonder they're a 10.5-point favorite. We're going to take them, and we're going to take them to cover. Then you know what I thought? Mark, the odds say that this is probably a 60-40 game on Toledo's side, probably a 60-40 game. So with that 10.5 points, you should probably just blindly take the points, because they may just flat out win this game. Go through bowl history year to year, especially the lesser known teams, and there is I guarantee, a great percentage of games that are double-digit games in which there's just a flat-out win by the underdog. I'm going to make sure that our guy, Stephen M. Smith, can join us at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, who's going to be unaware that he's joining a live stream. That's okay. Got our first touchdown of the bowl season. How about that? We've got 7 games tomorrow. 7. Looks like ESPN has 4 of them. So the rest of them must be on CBS Sportsnet. I think one's on ABC. 7 bowl games tomorrow. When are we going live? When do we go live? I think I'll just pop in at some point like midday, and then we'll do a big wrap-up show. Do not forsake me, oh my darling. All right, I'm going to skip down to the bottom because I don't want to miss out on what you guys are talking about. And this is really annoying. Cheryl's got work tomorrow. Cheryl, that means you're not going to be here. 7 games, Cheryl. 7. We're going to miss you for 7 games. I don't know when I'm going to go live on Saturday. And 2 NFL games. 2 NFL games. In my past life, that would have been a huge temptation. Like if I would have been doing this as a business and also would have had the NFL on at the same time, that would have been a tough call. It's not necessarily a tough call. I'd rather watch these bowl games than the NFL, but I do love the NFL still. Love's a strong word. Love is a strong word, like the NFL. Tony, college football, you need to be at least 1 year to go pro. College basketball is none. Packers, Ravens, the real MVP. That does sound like a good one. I didn't remember who was. Oh, the other game is the Browns, Raiders, I believe. Packers, Ravens. Eric asking, why is college football better than the NFL? Okay. I'll give you my college football argument, but I'll give you my NFL argument. The NFL argument's an easy one to make. It's just better football. Obviously, the players are so much better. It's just all you have to do is watch the games to determine. And it's the obvious. You're taking the no, I do not have an anti-NFL gene by any stretch. I probably know more. Correct that. I do know more about NFL history than college football history. So the NFL argument is easy. Number one, there's just more talent on the field. They're obviously better. You've taken the best 3%, 5%, whatever the number would be out of the college ranks and move them on with better coaching and more time to develop their skills and mature and get better coaching. And so the games are just better. NFL games are more competitive as well. Lots of blowouts in college. So yeah, if you're taking the entirety, Wolfgar, of college football versus the NFL, yes. Just look at the NFL games on a typical Saturday. They're competitive across the board versus what you see in college football with a ton of blowouts. But when you have the top teams in college playing, then that number changes, of course. Tony's got a point here about the atmosphere in college football. So yes, the NFL cannot compete with the pageantry, the rivalries, the history, all of that. No comparison. College football's got it all over when it comes to history, tradition, pageantry, prestige, all of it. Who really keeps track of who wins the NFL MVP versus who wins the Heisman Trophy? The Heisman Trophy is much more prestigious. Now, some of the situations that we're seeing currently in college football could be eroding some of those things. Think about your favorite college football players of all time. How many teams did they play for? That's changing. That has always been one of my tenets in arguing for the college game, is that I feel good as a fan knowing Chris Spielman's one of my favorite players of all time. He was always a Buckeye, always on through an NFL career with the Lions and the Bills, always a Buckeye, and the Browns, always a Buckeye. Forever will be a Buckeye, only a Buckeye. Pick your player. Pick your favorite player. Pick all the all-time great players. Hardly any of them ever played for multiple teams. That is quickly changing. That is quickly changing. That hurts the collegiate game in terms of allegiance and loyalty. Do I really want to see Spencer Rattler win a Big 12 championship at Oklahoma and then be competing with South Carolina 2 years later? That is going to be the norm. It used to not bother me because it was so rare. Somebody's noting here that Adrian Martinez has signed with Kansas State. So interesting. I need to post a video on that. Come on, Toledo. Let's go, boys. All right. Tony, NFL better postseason and real playoff. Yeah, that would be my next go-to point, Tony. Yes, the NFL has a logical, objective playoff system, which everybody understands. And it's based on results on the field. We don't have to include people's opinions. So much better. So much better. You win games on the field, you earn your playoff spot. No arguing, no idiotic committees, none of that. NSTHTV believes that Adrian Martinez and Kansas State are a good match. Christopher, sorry to knock you down there on your point there because it's invalid. So you think that if Kent State were all the rage, you'd be in their corner. Okay. All right. I've been an Ohio State fan since 1976. So when you're a fan of a school like I was Ohio State, so first of all, you have to understand, if you grow in Ohio, we got a tie ball game. So if you grow up in a football crazed state like Ohio, and there's Ohio State, which is all encompassing, and then you've got a bunch of MAC schools that nobody, like I didn't even know that, I probably didn't know Kent State played football for probably at least the first 5 years I watched football. So that's point number one. You know, when you're 10 years old, and this is before social media, obviously, now 10 years old, a 10-year-old can have access to anything they want. But when you're 10 years old in 1978 and you're looking, and you can watch Ohio State play almost every week on TV and watch major college football, and you don't even know, I don't even know. I watched my first college football game in 1976. Okay. I really kind of knew what was going on in 77. Then I went full bore in 1978. So full bore stats, rosters, everything, 1978. Okay. It might have been 5 years before I even knew Kent State had a football team. And I lived 20 minutes away from Kent State. So take that into consideration. Just think about that a second. I'm living in Stowe, Ohio, growing up in Stowe, Ohio. It's 15 to 20 minutes from campus, Kent State University. And for at least 5 years, I had no idea they played football. Something in that range. It was several years before I even knew Kent State played football. Okay, that's number one. Number two, if you're watching major college football on TV and you can never see a particular school, Kent State, play, and I had no allegiance to Kent State at the time just because, so from the time I'm watching my first college football game at the age of 8 for another 10 years, which to a child and an adolescent, 10 years is an eternity. When I think about 10 years now, it goes by like that. But back then, 10 years is an eternity. It's like your whole life. You're an Ohio State fan before you ever think about where to go to college. Then it becomes rather insignificant if you're as big a college football fan as I am and was at the time, which I will never make this argument. I will never argue that I'm a bigger college football fan than anyone, because I think it's ridiculous for anybody to say, well, I'm a bigger this than anybody else out there, because you don't know everyone. But I can reasonably make the statement, as I'm sure many of you can, I'm as big a college football fan as anybody. When you know everybody on the roster, when you watch every second of every game, when you know all the statistics, and you get as many when that's all you ask for Christmas and for your birthday when you're 12 or 13 years old is Ohio State jerseys, Ohio State hats. You know, my mom got me one of my prized possessions of all time that I still have at the age of 15. And it's this Ohio State Block O jacket that has my name embroidered on it. Okay. So basically, Christopher, I understand your point, but you don't know what you're talking about. So I had been watching college football and engrossed in college football for 10 years before I stepped on campus at Kent State University. And here's the deal at Kent State was that the only Kent State game I ever attended as a student, I attended several as a professional because I was getting paid. But voluntarily attending a Kent State game, I did that one time. And the only reason I did that is it was my freshman year, and Ohio State played in the Kickoff Classic on a Thursday night. Therefore, they were not playing the first Saturday. And Kent State had an August Saturday, last Saturday of August game, and there weren't other major games on. And so my buddy dragged me, who was also a freshman at Kent State, dragged me to the game. And it was an exciting game from the standpoint that Kent State kicked a game-winning field goal with like 3 seconds left or whatever the time was and won the game over Toledo, I want to say. Maybe they played Toledo. I could look that up easily. The fall of '86. And I never went back to another Kent State game. Attending college there, I didn't buy. I had one Kent State shirt that I purchased at one point, but I wore Ohio State clothing all the time. So yeah. And I lived through Ohio State underachieving with a bad record and no bowl game in '87, no bowl game in '88, 4-6-1. And I was just as fervent. I was actually much more fervent of an Ohio State fan during those losing seasons than I am now. So that's a guess, Chris, but you're wrong on that account by miles. But I get why you would think that, because most people are bandwagon type people. Not maybe most, but tons of people are bandwagon people who just gravitate to winning teams. But hey, I'm a lifelong Cleveland Indians fan, so so obviously I will stick with my team thick and thin. Swampy is here to ask, voice of college football, do you think Urban Meyer will never be a football head coach again? I would only be guessing. He obviously wants to coach. He just took a head coaching position, although he didn't really seem to be engaged as much as he should have been in the process. For a guy that has been so known for being motivated, driven, obsessed with his craft, with his team. Doesn't seem like he took the same approach and focus to Jacksonville with him. Just doesn't seem like it. I didn't follow the situation closely at all. I was not watching Jacksonville Jaguar games or reading post-game comments or watching news conferences, all the things that you could do to keep track of the team. I just knew that they were losing every week. They could barely score a point. So apparently we've got a commit to Nebraska that I'm not aware of. So I will tell you, to real MVP, most likely my thoughts are going to be minimal. Right now, they're 0. We will certainly talk about that with our guy, Greg Peterson from Husker Online. The coldest Crawford, Green Oaks wide receiver, 247 Sports. Well, we're talking about the 66th rated wide receiver in the country. And that seems low, but that's in the range in which that guy could certainly help and become a productive player in Nebraska. Also received offers, apparently, from LSU, Arizona State, Arkansas, and Illinois State, and others. 18 offers. So, seems like a good pickup. One of the top 20 players in the state of Louisiana. It's pretty good. 3-star. Swampy McGee, the voice of college football. If Urban Meyer called to offer you a job, what job would you take? Okay, let's understand something. I don't want a job. I have no interest in having a job. I quit a good job because I didn't want a job. So, number one, I don't want a job. I work for myself and I love it. Just need to make it viable. So, I don't want a job, Swampy McGee. That's first and foremost. Number two, why would I want Urban Meyer to be my boss? What has given me indication that I would want him to be my boss? I don't necessarily believe everything I hear, but I also don't not believe it. Who knows? Swampy. If Urban Meyer called the voice of college football, how would that conversation go? Well, if he was calling me to George, Urban Meyer, if you're listening to the show, please call in. That would be phenomenal, huh? Maybe I'll put it out. Everybody who's got a Twitter account, let us put the call out there. All call on Twitter that Urban Meyer needs to call in the voice of college football. So what would I say to Urban Meyer if he was going to offer me a job? So the only consideration I would make is if it was extremely lucrative. This is what I could see myself doing. Swampy McGee, I could see myself taking that job for a year. So I would not state this, of course, up front, but I would think, okay, if I can make $5 million this year, I'll take the job, keep doing this as much as I possibly can, quit after a year, unless it becomes some amazing job that I love, which I would doubt. Don't know what that would be. I take the $5 million for the year, then I quit. I got $5 million bucks. actually getting a call from Golden Blue Dude. So we will address that at some other time. But isn't that an interesting conversation to consider? The Christmas Bowl kickoff with Urban Meyer and the voice of college football. Oh, we could do a show together. Yeah, instead of the big noon kickoff, you got Urban Meyer with the voice of college football. Fascinating. That would be phenomenal. Get his football knowledge on this show, and we'd mix it up a little bit. That would be good. Okay, Swampy. I like where you're headed with that one. That's a good one right there. Jeff, I don't know what you're answering, but that's interesting to know. Long hair, fat, beard, which the women like the beards. The beards have obviously been in style now for the last couple of years. Who has dated ho-ho-hos? Okay, I don't know if that's a positive or not. Yeah, Firmus, 5 million, but it's still more than I'm making currently. So where's the Michigan helmet? The Michigan helmet's right here. Right here. There it is. Swampy's on a roll today. Can you Bahamas Bowl on Friday with a big bowl Saturday ahead? Well, Urban Meyer and the voice will help you avoid big dread. You can write my promos for me too. Eric, we posted a video on Oregon football last night. So check that out. Yeah, check that out. I've got to be impressed with his ability to go cross country, recruit players that he most likely had no knowledge of, didn't know of them, let alone have a relationship with them that had been built by Mario Cristobal and his staff for months and years, and to be retaining the first 7 that he has, and it's going to go up from there. So that's the only thing we can go on right now, is that Dan Lanning has done a nice job to retain and damage control. M&M's. I'm digging the new setup, Mark. You must be talking about the tree. That's the only thing we have different about the setup. We may just have widened the camera. Maybe that's it. Oh, we got a Toledo touchdown. Maybe my 10.5's looking good. Put some more points up there, boys. I don't really know what that was for, except for that M&M's was a bit interested in the new set, and I appreciate the compliment. Thank you so much for that. So I was just pointing out that actually it's a bright, sunny day with deep, deep blue skies, which is nice. But I've got my set just a couple feet away from my deck. I would like to someday have a set that's on kind of a platform of rollers. And I would like to have multiple sets. So I just don't want to sit at the same set all the time. I want to have a stand-up set, a sit-down set, bunch of different sets. And then on top of that, I would like to have the main set, in front of maybe a couple of French doors, and it could be rolled out onto a patio or a deck out in the sun, out in the nice weather, so I could take advantage and we could do it outside a portion of the time. Then we just roll it right back in. Would like to do that someday. All right, let me catch up with you guys. Talk is Pitt. I'm sorry that Kenny Pickett opted out as well. I wanted to see Kenny Pickett one more time in a Pitt uniform in the Peach Bowl on a big stage against Michigan State. Now we got the two best players, or at least the two players that are the most notable. I don't know if they're the best players. They're probably the best players in the game for the two teams, Kenneth Walker and Kenny Pickett not playing. The wider angle looks better. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I would like to have another addition to the production would be a second camera. So one on me, maybe then one where you see some of these radio shows on TV where there's a camera in one of the corners and they get a large look at the desk. I would like that. Tony thinks maybe Arizona State's calling Urban Meyer after Herm gets the boot. Max Johnson is going back to LSU, so he had opted for the transfer portal. So this is part of it. Don't assume when somebody jumps in the transfer portal that they are there to stay. Max Johnson decided to stay at LSU, which, how many times did I say on here? Why is Max Johnson in the transfer portal? Why is Bo Nix in the transfer portal? Unless there's something going on there that we're unaware of or that is not football related. From a football standpoint, you're the quarterback. You're the starting quarterback at LSU. You're the starting quarterback at Auburn. Where are you going? What are you doing? I don't get it. And sure enough, Max Johnson decided to stay. Talked to Brian Kelly, was persuaded to stay. In talking to our Oregon guy, Eric Scopel from 247 Sports, check out that video. Eric's amazing. Been on here 2 or 3 times to break down Oregon football. We broke down the National Signing Day class for Oregon with only 7 commits, 7 signees, but it's going to be much higher than that, of course. And talked about Dan Lanning. So check out that video. We just posted it last night. That Oregon also had a player in the transfer portal that Dan Lanning said, hey, wait a minute. Let's talk. I just got to campus. We just took the job. Let's talk about your situation here, what we can do for you. And they were able to retain a player who had entered the transfer portal as well. Josh is asking, do you think Josh Gaddis will leave Michigan this year for a head coaching job? So if you're talking about this year, meaning post 2022 season, I would say probably. If he continues to have the success that he had this past season as a Broyles Award winner, but there are no jobs open right now in college football. Where's the head coaching position that's open? I think the last one was Temple. That was the last one that was open. Am I missing anything that there's a college football head coaching position open? That's why Urban Meyer's not going to be coaching this season. I would be shocked. I would be I'd be surprised if Urban Meyer coached anywhere in 2022. Where's he going to coach? We're kind of past that point. There's a possibility, I guess, with a really bad bowl showing that a coach or two could get fired. It's happened, but I really don't. That's just not something that a university should do to not just the coach, but to the team and the most current recruiting class. So think about this. You fire the head coach after the regular season to set yourself up for National Signing Day on December 15th, not wait till after the bowl game, have the coach a bowl game. And think about this. If a coach is underachieving, the bowl game that he's in is probably a lackluster bowl game, and all those coaches have been fired. Oh, nice catch, buddy. Number 9. That was beautiful. The Blue Raiders are in the red zone, which they probably call the blue zone. So think about what you would think of your university if they allowed you, your new university, the one that you have signed a scholarship to, if you just signed a scholarship and signed to play there on December 15th, and 2 weeks later, after a bowl game, they fired your head coach that you just committed your 4 years to. Now, we know that they can leave. I get that. But you just signed a scholarship and you have to be there this year. You're not going to go anywhere at this point, most likely. No, a university's not going to be firing coaches after the bowl games. I don't think that sends a horrible message to especially the just announced incoming class. Lisa's here telling us that Josh Gaddis' name was out there for a head coaching opening, but I guess that isn't going to happen. That just means that he has another chance to go against Ohio State next year. Yes, he does. I do not believe that Josh Gaddis is going to be a coach anywhere but Michigan in 2022. But then if he performs as he did this past season, he's going to be a prime candidate for good jobs. Best under the radar bowl game. Well, I don't know what your definition of that, Eric, is, but I'll go with this. I'm trying to think of the best matchups. So, not shunning the Pac-12, the Big 12, or the ACC. You guys know I love all of college football. If this is all we had all year, were group of 5 matchups like this on Saturday, I'd be watching them. I would be watching this level of football. But you guys know what the deal is. I got to cover the big team. Just look at the views on my videos. Just look at the views on my videos. I somewhat killed my channel. George can relate to this, and he understands what I'm talking about. About 10 days ago, in the last week to 10 days, I put up a bunch of group of 5 videos that got no views. None. 300, 400, 500 views. And YouTube is being told, Mark, nobody likes your channel. They're not watching your videos. When I was rolling with a ton of great videos, as high as Lincoln Riley's 64,000 video, and many that topped 15, 20,000. So I was on a roll. Then I do all these group of 5 videos and nobody watches them. So you know what my deal is. I've got to cover the Power 5 first and foremost. So basically my viewership of the group of 5 comes week 0 and a little bit on Thursday and Friday night, depending on who's playing in the Power 5. If there are Power 5 games, I'm watching those. The group of 5 games, I'll watch a little bit on Thursday and Friday, and there has to be a monumental group of 5 game on a Saturday. I can't remember the last time I watched a group of 5 game. Of course, I watched more last year with the pandemic because all the other conferences didn't start until late. But BYU and Coastal Carolina, I didn't watch that game from start to finish, but I was pretty much locked in the second half. That would be the only group of 5 game that I can remember watching being locked in for over an hour in the last 10 years. So I say that to get back to this best under the radar bowl game. So the Big Ten and the SEC matchups, I love it. Love. They don't play enough regular season games against each other. They're the 2 power brokers. They own the sport. They own the ratings. They own the rear ends and the seats. They own the sport. They have such a huge advantage over the other 3 based on their commitment to college football. So this Penn State-Arkansas matchup, love it. That's probably my favorite bowl matchup. Penn State and Arkansas. That's got a really good game, intriguing game with quality athletes, NFL players written all over it. So that's one right there. Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, for as good as they are, that doesn't excite me much. But of course, that's an obvious choice. Oklahoma, Oregon should be exciting. It should be. I'm talking about the brand names, should make it exciting. But I'm not crazy about that game. 2 fill-in coaches. Iowa, Kentucky, Tennessee, Purdue. I like those matchups. I like those games. Arizona State and Wisconsin. I'm looking forward to that game. Let me run them down here, Eric. I like your question. Anything else happened today that... Oh! So somebody had said something about Max Johnson. This is very interesting because there were reports out yesterday that he left the transfer portal to go back to LSU. I'm seeing it now. Whoever put that up there, I apologize. Whoever put that up there, so I incorrectly see, this is the problem sometimes. I'm working on this business all the time. I can't keep up with the college football news, or else we're not going to have a channel. But anyway, so I see it here. Ex-LSU starting quarterback Max Johnson chooses Texas A&M. Big. Okay. Got a big story there. Got to cover that. What do I think? I think that's bad for LSU, and I think that's good for Texas A&M. I think Max Johnson is a quality quarterback. I think he is a top 15 to 20 quarterback in college football. So whoever put that up, I appreciate that. But I was just checking out the headlines here. Okay. So to further answer Eric's question beyond, I love Penn State and Kentucky, or Penn State and Arkansas. If I could only watch one game outside the playoff, and you know what? I probably, just as a game, it doesn't mean anything, but just as a game, I would rather watch those 2 teams play than Alabama and Cincinnati. Bowl schedule. Eric wants some under the radar bowl games. So my favorite game tomorrow, I do like this matchup tonight with Northern Illinois and Coastal Carolina. Northern Illinois, who blew out Kent State in the MAC championship game. Western Kentucky and Appalachian State, that's going to be an entertaining game. That's a good matchup. That's a potentially good game. I wish somebody would have been matched up better than UAB versus BYU. BYU needed a better matchup than UAB. Don't like that. Utah State and Oregon State. If I could only watch one game tomorrow, I'm going to watch Utah State and Oregon State. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Odd sound outside. Okay. Testing them. Something out there. Anyway, next Wednesday, UCF in Florida for obvious reasons to see who wins the bragging rights there. Gus Malzahn in play. There is a game on December 25th, the Camellia Bowl, Georgia State and Ball State. And my Christmas will probably be just about over by then, 2:30 in the afternoon. Why not just go live? Okay, after Christmas, Monday, Tuesday, Mississippi State, Texas Tech. It's not a bad matchup. UCLA, NC State. I'm looking forward to that game. Then once we get to Wednesday, Clemson and Iowa State could be a decent game. I like that North Carolina is playing South Carolina. Shane Beamer's doing a heck of a job, and now he's got Spencer Radler and Austin Stogner coming in from Oklahoma next year. Michigan State and Pitt with Walker and with Pickett would have been a really top game. Would have been. Hey, anytime I can watch Wisconsin in a bowl game, I'm going to do that. On December 31st, of course, before the college football playoffs, Wake and A&M. That's a nice little matchup. Then on New Year's Day, you really can't go wrong. Penn State, Arkansas. Again, that's my favorite game. That's my favorite bowl game, Penn State and Arkansas. Iowa, Kentucky, sure. I'm not crazy about Ole Miss and Baylor. It might be okay. I'm not crazy about Ohio State and Utah. And I'm not crazy about Notre Dame and Oklahoma State. LSU and Kansas State is a little Tuesday night between the playoffs and the national championship game. Love it. Love it. Love it. Jeff likes Iowa State with their veterans who really had a disappointing season. 3 or 4 year starting quarterback coming back this year. 5 really good offensive linemen, including one of the best centers in the country. All 5 starters coming back along the offensive front, plus a couple of key backups. One of the best tight ends in the country, one of the best wide receivers in the Big 12, and maybe the best running back in the country. And they lost 5 games. Cody lets us know that Sam Howell is playing in the Mayo Bowl. Well, Josh, I got to say that we did a lot on Jackson State getting Travis Hunter. We had a full Florida State show on it. We did instant reaction here as soon as I found out and could clear my schedule. We went live here to talk about it. I can't make a full assessment on it in regards, it's an amazing get for Jackson State and potentially for historically Black colleges and universities going forward, because this could pave the way. He could be a pioneer, and he's kind of called himself that. It might be a little bit arrogant, but it might turn out to be the case. Now, if in fact what we all believe is true, and that's that the NIL money flipped the switch, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. That is something for those of you who've been watching this entire time, at least since the NIL situation kicked in on July 1st. Remember what I said. I said this a zillion times at the time. And if anybody hears my phone going off, I apologize because I don't hear it because of the soundboard. For some reason, I can't hear it, but I believe that you guys can. So my apologies there. Yeah, I see it register on the soundboard. Anyway, it's off now. Okay. So what I warned about was that I didn't mind that players who, once they made their collegiate decision, would then be in contact with NIL offers and would accept those and start to make money. What I didn't want, what I thought was taking us down a wrong path, was a player choosing a school because of NIL and those companies becoming involved with high school athletes before they go to college, before they make their college decision, getting involved and saying, hey, if you go to Jackson State, you got $2 million on the table. If you go to Florida State, bye. We've got our deal with Jackson State. That's what I warned against. That's what I talked about. That was one thing that came into my mind after a few days of letting all that craziness sink in once that became legal on July 1st, that yes, I don't mind once the student athlete has made a decision and enrolled at a university, having to make decisions and procure endorsement deals. But I do not want that interfering in the recruiting process. That seems underhanded to me. And that's probably what happened. Cheryl's got to work on Saturday, but she's going to watch some games. Max Johnson to Texas A&M. And maybe these guys play high school ball. They're on social media together. They play against each other at the collegiate ranks. Maybe Zach Calzada knew that Max Johnson was transferring to Texas A&M. Maybe. Four minutes and change left in the first half. Toledo 14 and Middle Tennessee 14 with, I believe, the Rockets driving. They do have a 3rd and 8 to deal with. Lisa, as a Buckeyes fan, seems to be happy with the Rose Bowl, which, of course, it's the Rose Bowl. We should be happy with the Rose Bowl. We should just be interested in the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl should still have merit and value. And it's a sad circumstance that the Rose Bowl is losing its luster along with everything else. Tony, regulations do need to come. So I am completely in favor of free market and capitalism, but there have to be regulations. What those regulations should be, I would have to give that some thought. I do believe one of those things would be what I just suggested and warned against is that NIL companies that want to endorse collegiate athletes would not be legally allowed to contact them until they enroll in school. Antoine wants to this is what I don't support about your proposal there, Antoine, that college football players should have a cap on all the players and how much money they get, meaning that they should all receive the same type or amount of money across the board. Okay. If we're talking about a scholarship, scholarships have the same value to each individual. Maybe not to them personally, but it's the same value to each person. Okay. These companies are targeting certain players because of their worth, because of their supposed worth. I don't want to create a, how do you do that? How do you do that if said clothing company wants to target the Oklahoma quarterback and they want him to endorse their product, not the entire Oklahoma team, and everybody gets the same amount of money? That's not the situation. The free market, these players should capitalize on what these players should capitalize on: name, image, and likeness. And name, image, and likeness is directly connected to the value in which they are perceived to have, not socialism. I understand that's a harsh reality, but that's preparing these guys for there's an interception by Toledo downfield, and it looks like they're going to get some really, really good field position. Toledo defensive back brought it all the way back to the 15. Okay, so that's my thought on that, is that you can't force companies to pay individuals that they don't want to pay, that they have no interest in. It could be argued, Antoine, to your point, that there could be strict enough regulations to say companies are going to negotiate and make the deals with the schools themselves, and then the money's going to be equally distributed, and your company's going to have to determine whether you want to partner with Oklahoma football, not with Caleb Williams, because you do not have the opportunity to do that. You have to either contract with the school and they'll distribute the money, but you cannot directly contact and partner with the individual athletes. I don't know that will not fly, and we're already past that. So it's not going to be pulled back to that degree. Cody's making a guess that Dion and Travis Hunter will go to replace Mike Norvell in 2023 at FSU. Well, GJ, you make a great comment concerning NIL, of course, affecting recruiting because the bigger schools have access to larger contracts and just more exposure for the athletes. Therefore, they're going to be able to earn more money. However, you need to play. Most likely, companies will not be interested in players that don't play. So there is that incentive to go where you can immediately play rather than going to an elite program and sitting for a year or two, where you could go to a mid-tier program, make a little bit less money, but make it immediately. Because aside from the Quinn Ewers of the world that can get paid before they ever throw a pass or play a snap in college football, most players are going to have to prove that they're players, that they're on the field playing. Who wants to endorse the backup outside linebacker at TCU? Tony, yes, it's above board. NIL, at least from what we know, it's above board. And then it needs to be regulated and transparent. For sure. Okay, Antoine, I understand your point. If the schools were paying the players, then the players could get mad at the schools and say, hey, I'm the star running back. Why am I making less than this wide receiver over here? If they're getting paid by the school, understand, look at the NFL structure. Look at the NFL structure. Go to any team in the NFL, look up the roster, and go to a roster that has their salaries there. And you will find inequity all over the place. You will find guys making $12 million a year that aren't nearly as good as the guy making $6 million a year. There are inequities in the NFL all over the place regarding salary because there were a lot of factors. Either a guy signed a contract based on what he was supposed to be, and he did not turn out to be that level of player, or he blew up. He signed for a lower amount of money, and he blew up, he got better. And of course, draft status affects that initial contract. So if you're a first-round pick, you could be a bust, but as long as you can stay in the league, you're going to be paid what you were paid based on being a first-rounder for 3 years. But you could be a fifth-rounder, and usually the team's going to take care of you if you really break out and become a great star or even an impact player. But you're going to be impacted, at least for the first year, if not beyond that, for the first 3 years, by your draft status. So there are different factors that create inequality in NFL pay, where better players are oftentimes paid less than lesser players. Doesn't seem to affect. Now, who knows what conversations are had, what type of strife that there is in the locker room or behind the scenes away from the football facility. But it still works. It still functions. Still functions in a healthy way. The teams still practice. They still work toward a common goal. They still give a solid, if not spectacular, effort on Sunday, and they still produce a ton of money for the league and themselves. So it works. On the other side, also consider, on top of my argument, would be that the players cannot blame the universities because the universities would not be paying them, so they couldn't argue with the universities. It's the same situation as what's been going on for the last 6 months. Players could get mad. You could get mad all you want if you think you are a really good player, but you're not getting the NIL deal that some other dude got. But who can you be mad at? As some of you like to say, you can hate the player, you can hate the game. In that case, you got to hate the game because everybody's out there just to get what they can get. And so this comment you're making about arguing, I get it, and it makes sense, but that's already been in play in the NFL for years in professional sports, and it's been in play here in college football for 6 months already. And we don't hear any reports of guys chewing each other out on social media or face-to-face about what NIL deals they're receiving. Thanks, Michigan man. Appreciate it. I like it. Okay, again, Antoine, I get your point about players being disgruntled about what they're being paid by these NIL deals, but who are they going to go to? Who are they going to complain to? They're not, it's not like professional sports where you can go complain to the team and say, I know I signed this contract. This is first of all, what drives me crazy about professional sports is that these contracts mean nothing. This is the only walk of life that I know where these players can just be like, I know I signed a 5-year contract, but I'm out playing it after 1 year, so I want to renegotiate. You know what? You signed a contract. You traded the potential of you playing better and playing to a degree in which you could receive more money. You traded that possibility for security. You wanted security. You wanted the security of a 5-year contract. You've got nothing to complain about. But ownership caves in, and if the owners were as strong as they should be and had set precedents a long time ago, I got a comment about my kids the other day concerning their behavior, and I said, you got to set precedents when they're young. If you set precedents and accountability when they're young, they're going to be easy to deal with later. Anyway, same thing here. Genie's out of the bottle. It's not going to get back to this, but contracts should mean something in professional sports, but they don't. They don't if you're good enough. They don't. Okay, let's take that to the college game. Okay. Yes, I don't want to cap what they can make because you're not understanding that the cap and the payers of these contracts is the universe. It's not the institution. If the universities were paying these players, then they could institute a cap and say, we can only afford $10 million for this team to operate and to be competitive against, just like Major League Baseball does in the NFL. They got caps. Well, with the Major League Baseball, it's a luxury tax, but it works in a similar way. But with the NFL, a cap, with the NBA, a salary cap. Yes, because the cap is directly connected to how much money they make. So the NBA, it's determined through a lot of mathematical equations, basically, that if we make this amount of money, the players get this amount. It's right around 50% of league revenue. And therefore, we can pay them this. And this is what the salary cap is. And each team can decide what it is. Okay? You still run into problems because the team still determines how much money each player makes, how much money they're going to offer them and pay them. So that the players can still be mad at the team, argue amongst themselves, and be mad at the team at how much they're making versus the other guys in the locker room. Okay, but the cap is in place because they've come up with a mathematical formula that if we make this, we can pay them this. If revenue goes up, then we adjust the cap. If revenue goes down, we have to adjust the cap. But whose revenue are you looking at in NIL? You can't. There's a million companies out there. They all have different resources. Where would you base this cap on? It would be based on what? Caps are based on revenue generation. That's why they're put in play, to say we have to run a business that's viable. We can't run ourselves out of business. Therefore, we can only pay this amount based on what we earn. When we earn more, we'll pay more. Every company does that. They just don't call it a cap and you don't know about it. I dealt with that in my last employer all the time. Not that I made the decisions, but I dealt with it in regards to evaluating staff and them earning raises. Is that the company would tell us, you have this bucket of money to pay the staff in merit bonuses and raises. Okay. And that amount of money was based on a mathematical equation based on company earnings and revenue increase or decrease. And then they would say, boom, you got this bucket of money. That is basically a cap. It's a cap, right? If you're paying your staff $5 million total and you receive $220,000 worth of merit increases and have to determine who gets what, well, that's your cap. But when you're dealing with a million different companies paying different players based on their perceived worth, how do you cap that? And why would you cap it? If college football wants to truly run itself like a business, see, they're kind of caught in the middle where they're not totally a business and they're not totally, of course, they're not even anywhere close to amateurism anymore. The players have gone from not having enough power and having a lot of control over them to having all the control, and it's not healthy. So, for instance, if college football wanted to do this, and they'll never be able to get away with this because it's still supposed to be about being a student first. But if they wanted to run it like a business, they would do what the NFL does or any other professional sport. When these players go to the NFL, they don't really get drafted by a particular team so much as they get drafted by the NFL. The NFL has to populate all of its rosters. If one team gets so strong, like if the players could go, if it was run like college football, if the NFL was run like college football and all the players could go wherever they wanted, then obviously there would be a huge imbalance in the league. Players would go to whatever team had the most money or were in whatever location they wanted to play in, or for whatever reason, they would go to a certain select teams, just like they do in college football. But the NFL runs it like a business and says, for us to be strong and viable, we need almost everybody to be strong. You're always going to have your weak teams and franchises because of competition on the field. That's inevitable. Not everybody can win. But you have to have everybody be strong. You have to have equity across the league. So what does the NFL do? The NFL basically drafts the player and then sends them to their corporate office. They don't have a choice. You got drafted first. You got drafted to Seattle. You're going to Seattle. You got drafted next. You're going to Kansas City. You got drafted next. You're going to Jacksonville. You got drafted next. You're going to Carolina, to Charlotte. And the NFL dictates you're basically being employed by the NFL and going to one of their corporate offices. Well, if college football wanted to operate in the same way to make it more equitable and more fair for all of its competitive schools and even out the playing field, they could do the same thing, or they could try. I don't think they could legally pass it, but they could say, we are becoming a college football federation, and the SEC and the Big Ten and all the Power Five conferences, the Pac-12 and the ACC and the Big 12 could get together and say, we want to form a league, the College Football League, and we're going to have a draft. So on National Signing Day, we're going to draft and make these players. So we're going to pay them now, and they're going to go where we tell them to go. And we're going to do it for the betterment of everyone. So we have a competitive sport that's interesting for everyone and doesn't penalize you because you're at Kansas State and not at Ohio State. But that's not going to happen because these leagues don't cooperate, and because nobody's going to pull it together. Nobody's got the weight or the power, the authority, or the guts to pull it all together to do it. And then also it probably would be legally challenged, and rightfully so. I get that. See what you guys have here. Joe, yes, I'm in favor of playoff expansion. I will produce more videos on that during the off season. I don't really want to go into it right this second. So I answer that question probably 3 times a week. And I must have 20 videos, and I'm on record as to playoff expansion and how I would do it. And I understand that, and I appreciate that we get more viewers, different viewers all the time. So I need to continue to update and let people know, okay, this is where I stand on a playoff. The last time we really dealt with it was last off season. There's Mac Johnson going to Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher. Okay. The last time we got together, we had a whole lot of fun as I got out the whiteboard and we did like a 3-hour live stream, and I basically laid out my playoff proposal. And again, I've got all sorts of videos out there, but the last time we did it was maybe last April or May. Got out the whiteboard, went through the whole process of how I would format a college football playoff. I'm looking at the recruiting rankings here. This is ESPN. Where's the big stunner? It's obvious. Missouri, number 10. Missouri. I did not realize that until I was doing some research last night. Number 10. Missouri at number 10. They're talking about the SEC Western Division, and our guy, can't think of the host's name. He's been on SportsCenter for a long time. Shoot, can't think of his name. Anyway, he just made a point that I make all the time. It's one of the few professions in the world in which you could be really good at what you do and be a failure, because not everybody can succeed. Only a certain amount of people can succeed. Only a certain amount of teams, certain amount of players can succeed. Every play, there's a winner, there's a loser. Every game, of course, a winner and a loser. When you add it all up, you only have so many winners and so many losers. And even the losers could be super dedicated, prepared. They could be at the top of their profession. They could be really good at what they do, but it just didn't work out for them. And somebody's got to lose the games. Therefore, somebody's going to be a failure. But thank you for the question about playoff expansion. I'll just answer it to say that I'm in favor of it, and I've got a ton of videos out there explaining how I would do it, and we will continue to do that. And let's get to the off season for that. Worldwide 1873. Do you think the transfer portal should be a little more strict so players get penalized for leaving? Do you think the teams are staying disadvantaged? Do you think the teams are staying disadvantaged with the portal? I don't understand the last part of that, but yes, I do think that there should be restrictions. I believe in free market, freedom of choice, freedom of speech. I believe in freedoms of everything, but there can be abuse of those things. Therefore, there need to be some regulations and restrictions. So for me, not that I've given it ridiculous amounts of thought, but the first restriction is the obvious one-time transfer without penalty. You can transfer one time. The next time you transfer, you're penalized. You sit out a year. That would totally. So I am not clear on whether this is still being upheld, because I still see examples of players moving a second time and not being penalized that year. Chase Bryce, perfect example. He's been the starting quarterback, backup at Clemson, then the starting quarterback at Duke and Appalachian State now for 3 consecutive years, right? Was he at Clemson he was definitely there in 18. Then he might have been at Duke in 19 and 20, and then at App State in 21, or maybe in 20 and 21 at App State. Yeah, I think he was there last year too. So he was only at Duke 1 year. So I'm not getting that. It started to break down, from what I know, when these hardships were no longer taken seriously. Because back in the old days, if you transferred, you would have to sit out for a year unless you could prove some type of legitimate hardship. You have a family member who is deathly ill. They have a disease. They're sick. You want to be closer to home. Something like that is legit. And any person with any pulse or any heartbeat would consider that legit and allow that. But then it turned into an extreme where basically if you could just prove that somebody gave you a dirty look on campus, then you were eligible as a hardship to go wherever you wanted and leave immediately and not be penalized. So to compromise between the two and make it just more fair, I don't always believe that compromises are best. But in this case, I just think it would be reasonable to say, based on giving freedom to the player, freedom of choice, but also for the good of the sport, and there has to be some type of stability among these rosters to say, player, you can leave the first time, one time, no penalty. Second time, you sit out a year. And who's going to leave anywhere if they've got to sit out? If they've got football aspirations, they're not going to do that. If they're all about going to school and they're just good enough to play football at Utah State, and there are those guys out there that are, believe me, we don't think about it and we think it's a joke, but there are tons of players out there that are playing at high levels that play on legit football teams, college football teams that are academic-minded students first and foremost, because they know they're not going to play in the NFL or know that it's a pipe dream or that it's a long shot. So their education is most important. So they may sit out a year to go to a better academic situation. But that would be the first rule I would put in play. Immediate transfer allowed. Second transfer, you have to sit out a year. That would be first and foremost. Next, let's put some type of restriction on it. So here's, again, where I'm a bit cloudy, where it was my understanding, and I researched this, and I pretty much nailed this down, that players had to enter the transfer portal and enroll at the new school by July 1st to be eligible for that football season. And then we didn't see the transfer portal activity hit a certain degree for quite some time. So I would have certain parts of the year, just like NFL free agency, certain parts of the year, but much longer periods of time than in the NFL, where they're only free agents during a small portion of the offseason. These teams have to know who's going to be on their roster by, I would make it before July 1st. July 1st, that's only a month prior to August camp. I would say spring practice is over for just about everybody by April 15th. Whatever date that is, where the last spring practice is over, give these individuals 2 to 3 weeks to decide. Because we saw this last season where after spring practice, there was a rash of transfer portal decisions. That's understandable. Players went to spring practice with hope. They didn't perform. They may have gotten slightly injured. They met with their position coach after spring ball to find out, hey, I thought I was going to be the primary backup here, and now I'm fourth on the depth chart. I'm stuck. I'm never going to get out of this situation. I'm already a sophomore, whatever. And they decide to move on and to transfer. That's fair. A player should know where they stand before they make a decision. Just like with the NFL draft. The NFL draft and the NFL now supplies each player that wants to make themselves eligible for the draft early, makes them of course, gives them a draft grade. So their understanding of where they're most likely to be drafted. So same thing here. Following spring practice, give players 2 or 3 weeks to be able to get a good understanding of where they stand on the roster with that team, and then they can make a decision. Give them a few weeks. So let's say by May 1st, May 15th, players have to make themselves eligible for the transfer portal, because all the new schools, the schools that are receiving and losing players, have to be able to figure out what their roster is going to look like for August 1st at the latest when they go to camp. So May 15th, transfer portal shuts down until it might as well be till the end of the season. Because if you leave your team 6 games into the season, who are you going to go play for? We can't get into that game where guys are leaving halfway through the season and going to play for somebody else halfway through the season. So from May 15th to the last day of November, the transfer portal is closed. That seems to make sense to me. And again, I just talked this through in about 6 minutes. It would take a whole lot more thought just to make sure that I'm not missing something. Guys have some good questions today. Making me think. It's become a much more complicated game, has it not, to cover? All right. Antoine, appreciate you being here. Antoine, appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Mark, you make a great point. I thought that the universities were paying the players and not the sponsors. I understand your point totally. So yes, name, image, and likeness is, let me start over. My apologies. Let's start before name, image, and likeness. Any of us as college students could go out and get whatever job we wanted, make money. Scholarship college athletes were not allowed to do that. They had to be dedicated to their studies and to the sport, and they could not go out there and make money. At least legally, could not go out there and make money. And when I say legally, I mean based on NCAA guidelines. Okay. NIL stipulated that going forward, starting on July 1st of 2021, that players would be able to, in any sport, be able to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness, meaning they could have Instagram pay them money to produce photos and start an account and be on Instagram, or they could have said clothing company make them a model, or in the case of Bo Nix, such and such iced tea company, which I don't remember the name of, an iced tea brand, the first day of NIL was paying Bo Nix who knows how much money to endorse their iced tea. Okay, so the money's coming from all those different companies. Now, so that's what's going on above board. Are the universities getting involved to possibly sweeten the pot, bolster a certain payment increase? I'm not accusing anyone of doing that, but if I'm thinking of it, maybe it's being thought of by some of these football programs. Because think of this. if in the past it has been difficult to catch a college football program from paying players directly, and who knows how difficult it's been to catch, because we only know the schools that have been caught and penalized. We don't know about any others that were not caught. So I don't have the answer for you in terms of how effective the NCAA has been in catching and investigating and penalizing those schools and institutions that have paid players. We don't know. We just know who's been caught. We don't know who's not been caught but been guilty. Okay. So if schools have been successful in the past paying players under the table, then imagine with these NIL deals out there, how much easier you would think that a school could, let's say an NIL contract comes to a particular player at a particular school, and the school knows this, that this company wants to pay the best running back, wide receiver, and defensive player $1 million this year for an NIL deal. But the school knows that its rival is found some NIL deals that are more than that. That the school would sweeten the NIL deal by going directly to the company to say, okay, we appreciate your $1 million you're paying for this. We're going to kick in $2 million. We'll make it a $3 million deal. Is that happening? I cannot accuse or in any way, accuse, or I'm just dreaming up a scenario. And I said that a long time ago when this first came down, NIL, that I just don't want to see a situation where, number one, players are being encountered with NIL deals before they ever sign a scholarship and enroll in a school. And that's happening because that's determining, swaying college decisions. And I didn't want that. I don't think that's healthy. And then number two, I don't want to see NIL deals that are camouflaging payments from the school to the player. Who knows? All right. But thank you for that, Antoine. Appreciate it. We are into the third quarter now. Toledo's up 17-14. Middle Tennessee's on the move. Let's see if I can disconnect this trackpad. See if it'll still work here for me. There we go. There you go. Get out of the John Boy. If I can think of loopholes, there's people involved in this that are smarter than me and that have more of a conniving mind than me, that's for sure, as well. And they also have a lot to gain, so they have incentive and motivation to think of those things. Damani Jackson still is not signed. Oh, Cheryl, are people talking politics and vaccines? Please don't tell me that. Yes, George, who are you getting riled up? Even if I believe what you're saying, which I don't know if I do or not, I shouldn't make that statement. Oh, man. All right. I combed through a lot of that to get to this from John Doe. With the world implode if Cincinnati won the Natty. Cincinnati won the Natty. They would be the darling school and pioneer for all underlings. All group of 5 schools would worship Cincinnati. That would change so much. I can't even put it into words because we would have to experience. And should it change things? Well, it would show that a group of 5 can have an outstanding season, even if they don't play a great schedule. And Cincinnati did not play a great schedule. They played one really good team. Beat them by 2 scores on the road. Really good win. Probably one of the Notre Dame didn't have a great schedule. Maybe one of the 10 to 12 best teams in the country. And other than that, beat a Houston team that's probably, I know they're ranked in the top 25. They're not one of the top 25 teams in the country. They are not one of the 25 best teams in the country. They are one of the 40 or 45 best teams in the country. So Cincinnati's been able to, if they're able to win a game and beat Alabama, that is going to help the group of 5. But Cincinnati themselves will be in the Big 12. The Big 12 would be the happiest because the Big 12 basically lost 2 huge, enormous cash cow brands. And they're bringing in 4 schools, which helps the quantity. The quality is enhanced as well. They're quality programs. UCF, Cincinnati, BYU, and Houston. Really quality programs. Did a video on that. I basically showed what the Big 12 was adding and what they were losing with those program additions and subtractions. But none of them can state that they play at a high group Power 5 level. They don't. Cincinnati might be right now. We'll see. Houston they've had that recent history of, they knocked off of Florida State. They knocked off of Louisville with Lamar Jackson. They've played decently at that level, but not consistently. And BYU's, again, this would help the Big 12 because the Big 12 has basically replaced one of the 5 best football programs in the country and one of what should be one of the 5 best football programs in the country, but it's more like top 40, Texas, but recruits and has money like a top 5. They're replacing them with a bunch of top. Cincinnati's the last couple of years, a top 10, but really they're more like a top 40. And so is Houston and BYU and UCF. They're all in that top 25 to 40 range. So they've replaced quality with quantity. But if Cincinnati shows that they can win a playoff game or win the national championship, and then they go to the Big 12, the questions are silenced that this may not be a legitimate Power 5 league anymore. Edward, hey, Mark, you're digging with me on the Bobcat uncovering sewers today. Your job is better than mine. Best show on YouTube. Thanks. Edward, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. That's just a nice thing for you to say. I hope your day is going well. And yes, I am fortunate. I am blessed. I made a jump. I made a leap. It's paying off to a certain extent right now. It needs to continue to improve and all those things. And thanks to all of you, it has and it will continue. And sometimes you got to take big chances in life and do what you want. who produces the best tight ends, Iowa would be high on that list. So would Miami and Notre Dame and Stanford. Not so much in the last couple of years, but Stanford. It appears as though I've got to find out what happened with the Chargers and the Chiefs last night. I had the game on, but I wasn't locked in on it. And I'm seeing some comments about a flop in the game. I'll have to look that up. Let's see here. What are you guys calling this? I'll have to look it up online. What was this called? It was called something flop. I got to write this down. The flop fail. Okay. During the Chargers game. Yeah. I missed it. All right. Thank you so much for the super chat, Spaghetti Factory. Is this Cincy team even the best group of 5 BCS college football era? Well, oh, you're going BCS era. All right. Well, we've got a lot of Boise State in there, the team that beat Oklahoma. Other Boise State teams. There was one that even during this college football playoff era that was matched up against the Pac-12 runner-up Arizona and whipped them in the Fiesta Bowl in 2014. We've got the Blake Bortles UCF teams that beat Baylor in a Fiesta Bowl, beat Bryce Petty and Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl. Got the TCU team before they turned Big 12, Gary Patterson's pinnacle TCU teams that won the Rose Bowl against Wisconsin. And then, of course, UCF in 2017 and 18 that beat Auburn, that lost by 1 score to LSU in major bowl games. And the Houston teams with Ed Oliver and company that had that 2015 season in which they beat Louisville. They beat somebody else in the Power 5. Louisville was good. 2015. 2015 and 2016, Houston with Ed Oliver and company. They beat Louisville pretty handily. They beat Florida State in the Peach Bowl. Wow. To compare those teams, TCU, Boise State, UCF, Houston, in their heyday against each other. That's a great question. That is a great question. This Cincinnati team has performed one time that we know of. They showed up 1 week. All these other teams in the college football playoff have had to show up multiple weeks. Georgia, for as much criticism as Georgia takes about its schedule, did have to show up against Kentucky and in Arkansas, and to a certain degree, Florida and Tennessee and Clemson. Cincinnati had to show up against Notre Dame. We thought that they would have to show up against Indiana. Indiana proved to be a 10-loss team, a 0-win team in the Big Ten. And Indiana played them close. Now, Indiana was healthier and in better shape with Michael Penix at quarterback when they played Cincinnati. Yes, they fell apart later. Still, same team, 2-10, 0-8. So the worst team in the Big Ten. And Cincinnati, led by one score, and Indiana fumbled the ball inside the 10 with 5 minutes left. Cincinnati had one really, 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 really good game. To their credit, when they needed it, they went on the road, took down the Irish by 2 scores. The Houston game, pretty impressive. Beat a top, I think Houston's more in the top 40 range in the country. Beat them handily. Close first half, pulled away, 30-15. Is that the score? Anyway, that's a great question. Great question. Got our guy David Knight here getting the job done. We appreciate that, David. Thank you so much. Schedules are built out years ahead of time. I don't imagine they thought they would be in this position to be in the college football playoff. They are not the only ones with soft schedules. So Cincinnati's schedule would have been much softer. They actually went out and scheduled Notre Dame and Indiana. The conference turned out to be soft this year. This was not the American Conference of 2 or 3 years ago. This was a weaker American Conference. And yes, it's funny that Cincinnati, based on what they did, have done the last couple of years, but specifically going undefeated last year, playing Georgia down to the last possession in the Peach Bowl, was given all this credit in the offseason for they scheduled Notre Dame, they scheduled Notre Dame, they scheduled Notre Dame and Indiana. True, they scheduled those games in, I think, 2011 and 2014. Cincinnati was not thinking about the college football playoff. When they scheduled Notre Dame, there was no college football playoff. They were not thinking about, they were thinking about making money. They were thinking about being a respectable football program and saying, okay, we're going to go schedule a Notre Dame. So they were thinking about recognition, respect, national spotlight, and making money to get maybe to a better bowl game. They weren't thinking about a college football playoff. It did not exist. So Cincinnati's received all this credit for scheduling this game. They fell into this game. Same thing with Indiana. Even though there was a college football playoff in 2014, Indiana was no good. And Cincinnati was not scheduling Indiana thinking this could bolster our college football playoff resume. No. Here's another thing I was asked to run down my playoff format, which I will do during the offseason and do each and every offseason. So again, you guys can go to the front page of the YouTube channel and search college football playoff in a number of ways, and you can find all sorts of formats that I've thrown out there and what I am sold on. And I will produce more videos, but you can already look at what I've done in the past, and I've addressed that topic multiple times as I have schedules. There should be a college football schedule that is made each and every off season, just like the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA. Major League Baseball, with all the games played, if they can make a schedule in the off season, then college football can make a schedule during the off season. Take it out of the hands of the schools, put it in my committee's hands, and no, I'm not selling a committee like the College Football Playoff Committee that's got all these like carte blanche, all authority to do whatever they want. No, my committee would have very strict rules. Another full explanation for another time, but I've laid this out as well. You can look it up. I would have my committee build equitable schedules. Everybody plays a 500 schedule. Everybody plays a composite 500 schedule from the previous season, both in conference and out of conference, and build the schedule. And what a great promotional tool for college football, rather than us hearing every couple weeks during the offseason, oh, Georgia and Ohio State signed for 2033. Oh, great. Won't that be awesome? We won't have any idea who the coaches are going to be at that point or what's going to be going on with those teams. But yeah, great. Georgia, Ohio State, see you in 12 years. Okay. Instead of us hearing just one-offs every so often that sound attractive and we get excited because, oh yeah, LSU and Florida State are going to play. Alabama and USC are going to play. Oh, they're going to play in 10 years? Great. That should be great. Wake me up then. Imagine building the schedule like all the professional sports do during the off season and having a schedule unveiling May 1st. College football schedules unveiled May 1st. Can you imagine? The NFL schedule release must be the most overrated, over-marketed event in sports. If you follow the NFL at all, you already know what the schedule is going to look like. You just need to see dates put in front of the teams. You know that if it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, they play in the AFC North. They're going to play those 6 games against those 3 teams. Then they rotate against an NFC division. Therefore, they're going to play those 4 teams because last year it was the NFC East. This year it's going to be the NFC North. So there's 10 games that we already know out of 16, now 17. And then other than that, there's a formula that can be easily plugged in to determine based on the Steelers winning the division and going 11-5 last year that they're going to play A, B, and C from the rest of the AFC. You could ask me at the end of this NFL season who I could make out everybody's NFL schedule for next year without even thinking about it or having any application to it. And I would guess 14 or 15 out of every team's 17 games. So why the unveiling of the NFL schedule is just this grand event, I have no idea. It's the most overrated and over-marketed event in sports. But college football doing that would be phenomenal because it would be a complete surprise to people in terms of out-of-conference games. Don is letting us know that Frank Gore and Darren Williams, I haven't seen that name for a long time, from the NBA, are fighting this Saturday. Who you got? I know I'm off subject. Figured I'd ask. They're fighting, meaning are they going to be in a street fight? Are we going to throw them in an alley somewhere, like a real fight? Or are we going to put gloves on them? Are they boxing? Are we talking MMA stuff? I'm guessing it's like a UFC/MMA type event. I would think Frank Gore. I haven't seen Darren Williams lately. Let's look him up. Let's see what he's looking like these days. So Darren. There it is. Darren Williams versus Frank Gore, because I would think that Williams would have the height and the reach advantage, right? Boxing match. So Frank Gore, as of one day ago, told Bleacher Report that he still hopes to get a Super Bowl ring. And also, though, he turned down the NFL this season to do this. This article from the Washington Post. Injuries made Darren Williams hate basketball. Boxing has filled the void. I knew nothing about this. Am I going to watch it? No. I have no interest in watching it. I did want to see what Darren Williams looked like. I've seen Frank Gore recently. So Darren Williams. So he's got a height advantage, not by a lot. Don't you just think that Frank Gore is so freaking tough that he's going to refuse? He's just going to be a wrecking crew, right? Isn't Frank Gore just going to refuse to go down, right? Oh, we're talking old Illinois basketball there. Yeah, Darren Williams. Of course, he was on the 05. I'll pull out some of my old college basketball knowledge. He led that 05 Illinois team that went undefeated until the national championship game against North Carolina. No, actually, Illinois lost a game to Ohio State at the end of the regular season. They had one loss, but they went all the way to the national championship game at like 30-1. Okay. David witnessed Mel Gray, one of the great all-time kick returners in the NFL, knock out a 6'4" D end. So Frank Gore gets my vote. We'll see how accurate I am. I got to tell you that at this point, we've got 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Somebody's attempting a field goal and they missed it. Toledo's missed 2 field goals, so they got to stop kicking field goals or trying field goals. They're missing them. They're not kicking field goals. They're missing field goals. They'd be up by 9 right now, and my pick would be in a much better place. All right, so 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football for our big kickoff. And what I need to communicate, shoot, I missed this. People need to know this. Tonight at 7 o'clock, we are launching our West Virginia channel. So be here at 7 o'clock Eastern tonight with myself and the Gold and Blue dude. So go search Voice of College Football West Virginia. You will see a channel there with nothing on it, no videos, nothing, but please subscribe. Otherwise, be here tonight for our West Virginia channel launch. We'll talk West Virginia football and all sorts of other college football, of course, as well. You know me and the blue and gold dude. Gold and blue? Is it gold and blue? Blue and gold. Gold and blue. Gold and blue, dude. I better get that right before I got to shorten that down. Is that GBD? GBD? We'll be here tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern time to talk college football with all of you. So that will be a good time. Meanwhile, watch our videos. I am cranking them out, and we are delivering all sorts of college football discussion right here at the Voice of College Football. And we will see you tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern time. Thank you so much. Most of all, I'm enjoying this, but the real reason I'm taking off, I've got a lot of work to do, and I've not eaten anything today. Zero. I went to bed about 5:30 in the morning, and I basically slept for about 3 hours and got up, and it hasn't even crossed my mind until I'm sitting here starving that I've not eaten a bite of anything today. So we're going to take care of that. We're going to work hard and be back here at 7 o'clock Eastern time with you. Appreciate that. From Who's Her Mama? Who's Her Mama? Oh, man. I don't want to be involved in that argument, but appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Everybody else, thank you so much for your kind comments. We'll see you tonight at 7 Eastern.